firefighters rescued from that debris. We are being told it is a landslide. An EMT actually on the tape, firefighter EMT, we're not exactly sure on the tape, said that it was a landslide from earlier today, this morning, that came down. We were told it was 4 World Trade Center, but they're calling it such a war zone down there that they don't even know what building they're working next. They're just working through all of the debris that's coupled there together. They're just trying to figure out what it is, but there was a landslide today that kept some firefighters that were doing search and rescue from before trapped underneath. We're thinking it's over. We know actually it's over 2 hours that they were stuck underneath there, shaken up. But the first thing they did was get a little bit of oxygen, and apparently they continued working. It doesn't seem like they had gone to the hospital. We also, in that video, we saw at the World Financial Center how they set up some makeshift beds. There's some oxygen there. EMTs and doctors are on hand in the area to help out those firefighters that really need it. Apparently, first firefighter that was pulled was put on a stretcher. He got oxygen and got up immediately and started walking. An incredible sight. We were looking at that video, and both of you there in the studio were talking over it. We were feeding it to you live as we were seeing it here, along with Michael, who took the video, the volunteer rescue worker. It just seems amazing. It brings a lot of hope, but you can see the destruction firsthand of what these guys have to go through. And women too, down there working their hearts out, 12, 14-hour shifts. It's exhaustion, and I can tell you, I am 9 blocks away. This mask isn't doing us very good right now. Most of the wind is being shifted north, so we're getting a lot of the debris. It is very gray here. You could probably see soot and smoke coming in front of us. Behind us, we just have trucks working diligently. It seems like it's a cloudy day down in downtown. The sun is on top of us, but really that is just all smoke and dust that have come up from the area. We're going to throw it back to you, Heidi and Marvin.
Lolita, I'm just watching this haze all around you. Your voice is going. I must be hurting your throat, the dust. What's going on right behind you? What are we seeing right now?
Can you repeat that one more time? I think you said...
Just describe the scene around you right now. What is going on? Are they bringing people out because of the possible collapse of One Liberty?
Yes, exactly, Kaida. We're going to show you right now. Take some video behind there. Really, there's not very much going on now other than some cars being pulled out. You can see some EMTs and firefighters going in. We have heard, and as you heard from the firefighter here from Massachusetts, they did evacuate everyone around the One Liberty Plaza area. The fear is that the top 10 floors are on the verge of collapse. But that since yesterday, that building since last night was deemed severely damaged, along with 90 West. All of those are in such a near vicinity. The impact of the other buildings, the debris from both towers falling on these buildings are causing these buildings to be severely damaged themselves. Now, we know that an engineer has gone down to One Liberty. They were there all night. They've been checking it. People have been saying that there's seismographs and there's also lasers, making sure that it is structurally sound. Right now, they're deeming that it is. Right now, that they're not saying that it's structurally sound, but before then, the search and rescue was going on because it was deemed structurally sound. Right now, they're really getting people out because they are worried that that top building will collapse. But there's other buildings around here that pieces have been falling off slowly but surely, and you just have to, go out there and work. They've been doing it. They understand that there is some fear and some worry that some of pieces will be coming down, but they go through it because they know that there are people down there. One firefighter told me that if it was them, they'd like to know that someone out there was trying to get them out of the rubble. And I thought that was a very poignant message that he was sending. So everyone out there working very hard.
It certainly is poignant. Thank you so much for that report, Lolita.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Steve Sanders. I want to take a moment to thank Randy Salerno and Roseanne Tejas for their reports throughout the morning and the afternoon. My colleague, Allison Payne, will be joining me momentarily. You may have heard Mayor Daley talking about how O'Hare, the world's busiest airport, which hasn't been so busy in recent days, is slowly coming back to life. Right now, we'd like to check in with WGN's Muriel Claire to tell us just how that's shaping up. Muriel, good afternoon.
Well, good afternoon, Steve. It's a ghost town no more out here. The barricades blocking access to the roads leading to the terminal have all been taken down, but no planes are boarding. Now, the check-in counters are starting to fill up, but nobody's going anywhere, not yet. empty planes have to be repositioned first. Chicago's largest carrier, United Airlines, announced just a short time ago that there will be no departures before tomorrow morning. Initially, the airline said 6 this evening. So, as you can well imagine, a lot of disappointed people around. Meantime, beefed up security is evident. A group of employees checking in had to show their ID and get approved before they were allowed in. And I can tell you that for the first time, for as many years as I've been coming out here on stories, for the first time I was actually asked to show my ID. So I think they mean business this time around, and it's moving, but nobody's moving out. Reporting live from O'Hare, Muriel Clare, WGN News.
Muriel, I'm sure yours is a familiar face to a lot of those folks, and that tells us just how stringent this new security is.
Absolutely, and especially since even the mayor's people are around. So the mayor's people are here. The people, the airport officials that we normally talk to are all here. They know that we're on the site, but I guess that the word is that they're making no exceptions.
And I suppose the bottom line is this is not going to be the airport by any stretch of the imagination that we are so familiar with.
No, that's right, and I don't think anyone is complaining about that. Right now, what we are hearing, Marcella Raymond has been working this story with me, and what we both have been hearing from passengers is that they're happy that that these security measures are taking place. And of course, many people are feeling very anxious about getting on planes so soon after this tragic event.
So once again, American Airlines, though, will at some point begin resuming flights today.
Well, you know what, I hesitate to say that because things seem to be changing minute by minute. As I said earlier, we were told that United Airlines would start getting its first plane airborne by about 6 o'clock, and then of course that has already changed to 8 o'clock in the morning. So it's something that we just have to watch almost hour by hour.
And we certainly are doing that. Muriel Clare, thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. Right now, we'd like to take you back to CNN for the very latest.
And they are fine. 2.5 days later, they are fine. So that here in New York is where we are. We watch these buildings and we hope for more good news out of the rescue site. Judy Woodruff joins us now in Washington. Judy, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Aaron. I have to say, all of us in Washington who've, of course, been watching the coverage, celebrating even the lives of 5 people is something to celebrate, given the grim stories all the way around. And Aaron, I know you're watching very, very closely what's happening with those buildings in Lower Manhattan, and of course we'll come back to you as soon as there are more developments. But we want to bring you up to date now on the investigations, which are proceeding apace. CNN's Justice correspondent Kelly Arena has been reporting for us all day long on the progress that's been made. And Kelly, we know that now they're talking about 18 hijackers having been involved. Tell us what you've been able to learn about that.
That's right, Judy. FBI Director Robert Mueller and the Attorney General John Ashcroft said that they have identified at least 18 hijackers. Now, this isn't a guess here. They say that they have names and information on 18. Justice is considering whether or not to release a list of names to the public. That decision has not yet been made. They did break down for us, though, how many...
Just a few moments ago on WPIX, you may have witnessed some of the most dramatic rescue video I have ever seen. They are continuing to cover that story. We'd like to take you back now to WPIX in New York.
Truly unbelievable.
Someone was just found alive. Can I get in through here? I definitely got to see this, man. Oh, man. Yeah. What? Yes.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
Matter of fact, I got to get in here. There ain't no sign. I got to get in here, guys. I got to get in here, guys. This is beautiful, man. Don't have to do anything, man. One person, please. I came here. Thank you. Joy, the happiness. Beautiful, man. USA all the way. Let's go, guys. Great.
Thank you. Hi. Hi, how are you? Nice to meet you. Oh, okay.
And I'm glad you have it there in case there's a problem.
Okay.
We're going to be able to bring it up full screen.
All right, man.
I just want to remind you that this is unedited video. You're watching it even as it unfolds. Taken by Michael Colon, a volunteer rescue worker, and he was lucky enough to be there when they managed to rescue 5 firefighters. 3 of those firefighters were able actually to walk away after the rescue. 2 of them, I guess, went to the hospital. But it's just an amazing moment, and we captured it all on videotape. And this is just not edited. You're just seeing it all as it unfolds, all of it. And again, we want to reiterate that these 5 firefighters that were rescued, you've seen them being rescued here in the video, were caught in a landslide earlier today. They were caught and buried for about 2 hours. They are not in the original collapse of any of the buildings. They were there to rescue other people and ended up having to be rescued themselves.
In a way, you wish sort of that, take this the right way, that they were, because that would give some hope that some of the people who have been missing since Tuesday are still alive. Still, any kind of life-saving that's going on down there is worthwhile. I want to introduce a guest here, someone who is a good friend of my family's. This is Tracy Woodall. I think we probably need to throw a light on Tracy over here. She's a little bit.
Hi, Tracy.
She's a little bit in the darkness. Okay, Tracy, your husband is missing. He was in the World Trade Center building. Tell me about what you know, where he was, what's happened since Tuesday.
Okay, he works on the 89th floor. He called me 3 times while he was there, and the last time he called, he was on the 87th floor.
What had he said had happened during
the first time he called? He had said that his building wasn't hit, that there was an explosion, but it was next door. He was okay. And then a few minutes later, he called me again and said that his building, there was an explosion. He didn't know what it was, and that he was getting out. He was leaving. And then I got another call from him he said that he was being told to stay there, and I just, told him to get out. And so he said at that time they were leaving. And then he hung up, and so they were on the 87th floor at that time trying to get down.
All right, and that's the last you heard from him.
Mm-hmm.
Have we taken a look at Brent's picture yet, guys? We have a shot of him here. We're going to be able to bring that up. Oh, there it is. Okay, terrific. And there are the phone numbers, the relevant phone numbers that you can call Tracy's family here. A little bit more of a description. He's a big guy.
Yeah.
6'4", 280 pounds. What, about 30, 31, 32 years old?
30 years old.
30 years old, hazel eyes, brown hair. There again, you see the phone numbers.
Do you have children?
Not yet.
That's a good question. Your anniversary, your 1-year anniversary was 5 weeks ago, and what
Yes.
did you find out on that day?
We found out that we were expecting a baby. So,
All right, so you're pregnant. Tell me, how you doing?
I'm okay. I mean, I'm just trying to find him because I know he's somewhere and he's just, waiting to be found. And, he's a very strong person. He's going to be just there waiting.
What have you been doing so far? I know you're going around town with your brothers.
Yeah,
What have you
we
been
also
able to...
have about 6 or 7 people who've been in Manhattan since Tuesday who've been taking his picture. They've made posters, and they've been to all of the hospitals over and over again. There have been several people that were unidentified in the hospitals. They've been going there. I've talked to the FBI several times. We have a missing persons case report for the police already done. The Red Cross, we've filed with them already. And, we've just been making sure his picture is in all the hospitals. And
what are you going to do from here?
After this, I'm just going to try to get down to all of the major areas where they have information and just get his name out there and just to, try to get his picture to as many people as possible. And maybe somebody saw him as they were leaving or, on their way, and then we can maybe find out if, where he's trapped.
Tracy is the director of the Central Park Early Learning Center, a wonderful school on the Upper West Side, and the one where my little boy, yeah, began his school career, and you were so kind to him on getting him launched at school that it breaks our heart that you're undergoing any kind of pain at all. I hope this in some small way helps. Is there anything else you'd like to say to anyone who might be watching?
Just if anybody saw him or anybody from KBW, there are still 60-something men that were in his firm on that floor that are missing. If we could
60-some?
Yeah, about 68, I think. And if any of them could be found, it would be helpful because we'd know. They were all together. We do know that. And they were all making calls about the same time. And it was at least 40 minutes before the collapse. So they had plenty of time to get moving. And so we're just, any information on any of the guys from KBW that are missing.
What's next for you now?
We're going down to the Armory now after this.
Trace, good luck.
Thank you, Jim.
Okay.
Thank you.
Best.
Okay.
Our prayers are with you.
Thank you.
Oh, we're waiting right now for that White House briefing that I mentioned with Ari Fleischer, and that should be happening any moment, and we'll go there. In fact, it's happening right now. There he is.
Okay.
Good afternoon. I want to give everybody a report on the President's activities for the day, and then share with you some information about what the various agencies are doing to combat this terrorist attack. There is no evacuation of the OEOB. No. I'll be explaining everything. The President today has made a series of phone calls to world leaders. He has spoken to Prime Minister Koizumi of Japan, Prime Minister Berlusconi of Italy, Lord Robertson of NATO, Crown Prince Abdullah of Saudi Arabia, and Egyptian President Mubarak. As you know, earlier today he spoke with Mayor Giuliani and Governor Pataki to express his concerns about events up in New York and inform them, of course, that he will be going there tomorrow. The President also visited a local hospital today. I'm going to have a little bit more to say of that shortly. And beginning in just a few minutes, the President will meet with members of Congress from the Virginia area and the New York area to talk about the ongoing efforts of the federal government to be of assistance to the families and to the victims. Tomorrow will be a national day of prayer and remembrance. The President will attend a church service here at the National Cathedral in Washington, D.C., and the President is asking all Americans at their lunch hours to go and attend a church, a synagogue, a mosque, a place of their own choosing for worship, to say a prayer in assistance to the families and the victims of this horrible incident. As for the activities of the federal government, let me fill you in on several activities, including the one Helen just asked about. The Department of Defense will be announcing the names of those who are killed in the Pentagon disaster if families have been notified, for those families that have been notified. The Department of Housing and Urban Development announced that they will direct all FHA-approved lenders to provide relief to families with FHA-insured mortgages affected by the recent attacks by providing additional mortgage flexibility and not to start or threaten foreclosure actions for at least 90 days. Secretary Martinez has also asked all major mortgage lenders, including those who are not insured by FHA, to consider providing relief to families as well. The Department of Treasury, in conjunction with the Department of Justice, has announced the deployment of agents from U.S. Marshal Service, U.S. Border Control, and U.S. Customs at designated airport security checkpoints throughout the country as part of the heightened security measures that have gone into effect. The Secret Service has expanded the security perimeter around the White House, this is what you have seen here, as a precautionary matter, All further questions that I'll refer to the Secret Service. The Department of Transportation, Secretary Mineta, has ordered that national airspace will be reopened to commercial and private aviation. They did so earlier this morning. Airports will reopen on a case-by-case basis only after implementing a more stringent level of security. The Department of Justice, in conjunction with the Department of Treasury, I indicated, has beefed up the security at the airports, and the President has directed Attorney General Ashcroft, and he announced it earlier today, to streamline the application, approval, and payment process for benefit claims of eligible survivors of firefighters, police officers, medical rescue personnel, and other public safety officers who died in the line of duty as a result of the act of terrorism in around our nation on September 11th, 2001. Secretary of Health and Human Services Tommy Thompson is in New York. He has announced that the Department of Health and Human Services will be working with the Federal Emergency Management Administration to provide coordinating counsel and service to victims, their families, and rescue workers. And the Director of the Environmental Protection Agency, Whitman, is also in New York today, and she'll be having a briefing at 5 o'clock. Finally, let me just say this. The President was very touched by his visit to the hospital today. At the hospital, he met with people who are in a burn unit now, who have survived. Some people are there as a result of the heroic actions they took in saving lives. The President met with one family where a mother stood by the bed of her son in the company of a soldier who rescued her son. And she said, "Mr. President, you have no idea how much this means to my family that you are here." He and Mrs. Bush were very touched by the courage that they saw at this hospital, and by the determination of our nation and its military and all the people who were affected by this and the people in New York City. The President is also aware there are people in this room who haven't seen their children in days. The President is determined, his resolve is clear and strong, and America is united. And I'm more than happy to take your questions.
Ari, the President is not legally bound to seek a resolution from Congress authorizing the use of military force against whoever is responsible for these terrorist acts. And indeed, he already has a resolution from Congress showing solidarity in any response that he chooses to undertake. Why does the President believe it's necessary to have a separate resolution authorizing the use of military force?
Well, the President views this as a real show of unity by the United States Congress. This is a real result of the expression of the bipartisan, bicameral leadership that met with the President 2 days ago to discuss Congress's role in this matter. So while the premise of your question is accurate, per the Constitution, the President as Commander-in-Chief has authority vested in him to take actions as he deems appropriate. It is also a recognition of the unity of our nation as expressed by the Congress.
I do a follow on that, Ari, please. If it is actual war, as the President and others in the administration have declared, does he indeed not need a congressional approval to wage war on anyone? And the second part of the question, yesterday you said from that podium that the plane that hit the Pentagon was destined to hit here, and yet the plane came up from the south along I-95 and hit the West Wing. It doesn't seem to figure. Can you perhaps clarify it for us?
Well, on your first question, the answer is the same as I indicated to Mr. Roberts. The Constitution vests in the President the authority as Commander-in-Chief to take action that in that capacity he deems appropriate. Nevertheless, our nation should be heartened to see the joint action with the Congress as the United States government unites and the President and the Congress discuss the terms of any type of joint resolution that the Congress may offer. On the second question, I think we've really exhausted that topic. I've got nothing further to add.
All right. The President said this morning that he wanted to give Pakistan the opportunity to demonstrate that it can cooperate in this coalition he's trying to develop. State Department sources are telling ABC that the administration has asked the Pakistani government for permission to transit through its airspace in the event of a military operation, to close its borders with Afghanistan, and to stop providing fuel to the Taliban government. Why, and what would happen to Pakistan if it did not comply?
Terry, the President indicated that Pakistan has a chance to cooperate with the United States government, and the President is pleased to see that Pakistan may take this chance. Secretary Powell indicated earlier today that the United States government has friendly relations with Pakistan. I'm going to broaden your question and try to explain it to you in a broader context. When the president talks to these leaders, you know I'm not going to share with you any private information the president or others in the government expressed on any communications. If they did, I'm not saying they did.
There are government officials sharing that information, and it's pretty significant. Are we looking to transit through Pakistani airspace?
I'm not going to deal with any type of specifics about the actions that we are taking or are not taking with regions around the world or nations around the world. But let me say this. As the president calls world leaders and as they join him in combating terrorism, the actions that the president is discussing with these leaders involve all forms of cooperation. It can be diplomatic cooperation, it can be military cooperation, it can be financial cooperation, it can be political cooperation. All of those are areas that are part of the coalition building that the president is discussing. Secretary Powell indicated earlier today that that is the purpose of all the phone calls. That can include any of those options.
And the president seemed to put Pakistan on notice. What if they don't comply? He said, we'll see what they mean by their agreement to cooperate. What if they don't?
Terry, I typically don't deal in hypotheticals. I certainly will not deal with them now.
Ari, I could follow
Kelly?
on that, though, in the sense, though, is the message that actions speak louder than words here, that the Pakistani government can say that it's pledging to stand united with the U.S. government, that it will do what it takes, but is it your sense or the White House sense that we want to see what the Pakistani government will do and that actions are more important than a statement?
This is the beginning of a process that can be lengthy. And the cooperation around the world is going to take many forms with the government of the United States. And the president, as you've seen by his actions today and the phone calls that he's making, which incidentally he will continue to make, are aimed at the various specific areas I mentioned. And the president understands that this is a process. It will take some time, and he will proceed throughout that process with resolve.
How significant, though, for the Pakistani government to come forward with such a statement? Was the U.S. putting some pressure on the Pakistani government?
I'm going to let the State Department discuss that specific by specific, country by country. Suffice it to say, the president, as a general matter, is very pleased with the conversations I've been having with leaders around the world. The world is uniting against terrorism, and the president sees this as a real opportunity for the world to do something that can save generations and protect generations from something that obviously has wreaked havoc on our nation and has killed thousands.
Ari, could you tell us about what is happening in Lafayette Park, and could you also tell us whether the White House and Secret Service think that tourists and the American public are safe visiting the White House right now, and indeed are they safe visiting downtown Washington, D.C. and other parts of the city?
Yes, they are safe visiting the White House. Yes, they are safe visiting Washington, D.C. Suffice to say, it is not business as usual, and that's one of the reasons why the Secret Service has expanded the perimeter around the White House. But it is not business as usual. The president said to the American people the other day that the government will take all appropriate precautions, and that's what you're saying.
Ari, you opened the White House yesterday.
I'm sorry, go ahead, Rebecca.
Thank you. Is that a permanent expansion, and we'll be seeing further road closures in addition to Pennsylvania Avenue? What can you tell us about that?
The Secret Service will have the most authoritative answer on that, but my understanding is it's not permanent.
You reopened the White House yesterday to public tours and wanted to get that word out. How are you now rethinking that decision for some reason?
Let me check on the public tours. I don't know what the status of that is.
When Mr. Wolfowitz talked about putting an end to states that harbor terrorists, are you saying, did he mean to say that U.S. policy is to wipe out governments that sponsor terrorists?
Well, I can only say it in the president's words, and as the president said, the U.S. will use all our resources to conquer the enemy. And I think anybody who chooses to be America's enemy will have to think about what that means.
Ari, I apologize. I need to clarify one thing. I apologize.
Okay, and then we'll come back.
Just to clarify, we have people telling our reporters that they have been evacuated from the White House. Is that inaccurate?
No, there's no evacuation underway. If anybody in the OEOB is listening, there is no evacuation underway. These are the security precautions that I indicated for precisely the reasons I indicated.
Is that
Campbell?
Lafayette Park?
I believe the perimeter.
Are people being moved out of the EOB? No.
I just said no.
Lafayette Park?
Helen, I just said no. The perimeter is being expanded, but that deals with entree to the White House, but the White House will continue to have visitors. For example, there's a congressional delegation visiting now.
Can people be in Lafayette Park?
You have to check with the Secret Service. Why? Because the Secret Service knows exactly how their perimeters work.
Information of a new threat, or what prompted them to do this on day 3?
This is just ongoing security issues per the Secret Service.
I mean, they had a broader perimeter on the first day, then they came back, now they're expanding it back out. Is this a result of some new information?
Jim, I think if you look across cities across the United States, if you look at all the actions that have been taken, as the President said, it's not business as usual. Security's been beefed up around the nation as a result of decisions that local security forces make as they see fit.
Their information, or just they decided for today to expand it to Lafayette Park?
Yeah, I think the Secret Service can explain the reasons with better precision than I can, but the President did tell the nation it will not be business as usual, and I think what you're seeing is a sign of that. Campbell had it, yeah.
I know you don't want to go back to the subject, but the President, when he was asked today about the threat to Air Force One, said, "I will not discuss the intelligence that our country has gathered," and yet you and other senior administration officials have discussed the intelligence. Does he have a problem with that? Is there some sort of different policy? Is this something that he has authorized you to share with us?
What the President said is he's not going to discuss how the sources and the methods for how any information is collected, and that's exactly in keeping with what I've done and what I've said.
But prior to your statement yesterday on that subject, no law enforcement agency involved in this, the FBI, the Secret Service, any of the branches of the military, gave any hint that Air Force One had been a target. And so clearly, once you put that out there, people are going to want to know more information about whether or not that's a credible assertion. And what can you tell us?
Well, I think that people understand it's credible.
Harry, this morning you could not nail down what was the purpose of the President's phone calls regarding coalition. But this afternoon you come back with an answer that the President's really asking world leaders for military, financial, so forth, help. Is that right? Do I have that right?
That's exactly what I said.
Okay. Is there a coalition now being formed formally?
I don't think you can say formally, the President. This is exactly what you would expect. This is what presidents do. At a time like this, the President of the United States, as the leader of this country, talks to his colleagues around the world, prime ministers and presidents.
Is he asking for specific sums and men in uniform and so forth to join in an effort?
He's asking for what I just indicated.
It's more than moral support, though.
That's a fair statement.
It's practical action in response to terrorism.
That's correct.
When the President spoke in the Oval Office, he seemed to go beyond just terrorists and those who are...
We are going to break away from Ari Fleischer in Washington right now to go to Albany. There has been a special session.
Well, you've been listening to White House Press Secretary Ari Fleischer updating us on just how the President is responding to this tragedy on the third day of it. He is trying to rally the support of world leaders in an effort to find the perpetrators of this.
He talked to the leaders of Saudi Arabia, Egypt, Japan, and NATO. He also spoke to the mayor of New York and governor of New York earlier this morning, and he is supposed to go to New York tomorrow. Also today, he visited the hospital where he met with the victims of the crash at the Pentagon and was very moved by his visit there.
Said to be very moved also, the President speeding up benefit claims for all of those who were killed, for the families of those killed in the attack, both at the Pentagon and the World Trade Center Tower. Of course, a lot of rescue workers killed and injured.
It sounds like absolutely every cabinet member has been called on to pitch in some way, which, of course, they should.
And we did get an update from Mayor Daley here in Chicago just an hour or so ago. Of course, Mayor Daley talking about this prayer vigil that's supposed to take place, that will take place at noon tomorrow, not just here in Chicago, but throughout the nation.
It's a national day of prayer tomorrow, but at noon tomorrow, the mayor is asking everyone to come down to Daley Plaza or to Pioneer Court, and he's urging all businesses to make employees available to participate, and if you can't make it to either of those two locations, then you should go to a park. And of course, if you can't leave the home or whatever, then to just take part at noon in this citywide prayer vigil.
Ringing of bells at noon, and then of course we will be looking for some candlelight vigils.
It was pretty amazing watching some of that videotape on WPIX of the firefighters.
Very moving.
Who were rescued. There were 5 firefighters rescued.
You know, we thought they were in the debris of the actual, right there at Ground Zero of the World Trade Center. I guess we've since learned that they were in one of those buildings that were the result of collateral damage, one of the buildings that collapsed just a couple of hours ago. But truly unbelievable to see them walking out of there. 3 of them ambulatory and apparently not seriously injured. We understand 2 others will be going to the hospital.
One thing that we want to mention that just crossed the wires, and that's that stock trading in New York is supposed to resume on Monday. That's according to the Associated Press. And we really should talk a little bit, Steve, about air travel, because that's really a big topic on everyone's mind.
Especially here in Chicago.
Yeah, we just talked to Muriel Claire. You talked to Muriel Claire. What exactly did she say?
Well, I think probably the biggest thing, this is not going to be the same airport that we have always known. She told us that no more curbside baggage check-ins. I think e-tickets might just be a thing of the past.
We're looking at a live picture now, O'Hare, with a plane at a gate, but correct me if I'm wrong, but it's my understanding that United is still not going to fly today. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's sort of a complicated thing, I guess, and of course we all heard Muriel.
Southwest isn't going to fly today.
They're not flying, so it's kind of like the world's busiest airport is open for business, but the airlines are not.
Well, I think that the airline industry is really going to have to slowly, very, very slowly get back up to speed. And I just caught a little bit of Muriel's report on the noon show. And in addition to no more curbside checking, did I understand that they're going to check each passenger when you go through security?
I think they are.
At least for a time, anyway.
And you know, even if you don't really have your ticket in hand, they're going to want to see some sort of a receipt just to get into the airport compound.
I wonder if this will eliminate e-tickets.
Well, that's what we were talking about off the air, and I don't think I've used e-tickets very much. I know you have.
Right. No.
Do you get a receipt, or do they give you?
No, you don't. You can go if you go online and book a flight and you have an e-ticket. No, you wouldn't have a receipt. You'll have a confirmation number.
And I suppose printing that piece of paper out off your computer is just not going to work. But that raises a lot of interesting questions.
But the important thing that Muriel said today is that passengers are not complaining about this beefed up security, because people are understandably nervous about the prospect of flying, but they do want to get home.
And given what we've seen in the last 2 or 3 days, I don't think anyone could or should complain about beefed up security. Go ahead.
Why don't we check back in with our colleagues at CNN, where Ari Fleischer is still speaking at the White House.
It does call for approval of if troops are going to be put in harm's way.
Gene, as with many previous administrations, there are questions about the constitutionality of some aspects of the War Powers Act, and this administration shares those questions.
Yeah, but in most of those previous cases, we're looking at largely air assaults. But is it your position that
Actually, that's not accurate. There have been some 125 military actions that took place in the United States, and I believe only 5 involved declarations of war.
Secretary Powell, can you tell us anything about special security precautions tomorrow for the President's troops in New York? Are there going to be fighter jets on each wing of Air Force One, for example, like there were on Tuesday?
Well, actually, I do not know the answer to that question, and if I did, I'm not sure I'd be able to share it in all cases. But suffice it to say, the President has full confidence in the Secret Service and those who protect him.
Will he travel with a full contingent? Will he, the usual presidential motorcade that we see, this enormous beast that lands in a place and takes over a town, will he do that in New York?
I think Terry will be a smaller, enormous beast.
He's going to travel. You said that we wouldn't go to New York as long as his being there would create a hindrance to those trying to rescue workers, people cleaning up the debris. When they're still pulling people alive out of that rubble, how do you keep him out of the way and from being a distraction?
Because in conversations with Mayor Giuliani and Governor Pataki, they talked about how it would be appropriate and meaningful for the President to go to New York. And so all factors are taken into consideration. And of course, the President wouldn't go under any other circumstances.
So are you saying he'll keep his distance from actual ground zero?
Well, you'll see, just as when he visited the Pentagon yesterday. You'll see tomorrow. Go ahead. Go ahead.
You talked about the business, or the individuals with mortgage help, et cetera. What about the businesses that have been wiped out? Where is the administration thinking of putting some help in that direction?
Well, also as a result of the $20 billion supplemental appropriation bill that is moving its way through Congress, that will provide the means to give assistance to many people, businesses, otherwise, all who have suffered in this.
Secretary Powell saying bin Laden is a prime suspect. Is the administration, the U.S., confident, or does the U.S. know of his whereabouts, where he is?
I'm not going to give any answers to that question.
If I could come back to the mid-1970s, the U.S. has had an executive ban in place on assassinations. Is the president considering lifting that?
All the president's actions will be in concert with all laws, and I have no information for you beyond that.
All right, former President Bush.
Jim, go ahead.
On that point, is there anything, any restriction that the administration believes is hampering the intelligence community's efforts to deal with terrorists? Are there any restrictions either self-imposed by the agency or by the intelligence community or by Congress that you think need to be eliminated?
I have not heard any such conversations. As always on all these matters, as the President indicated today, the government will keep you informed of any steps it thinks are necessary, but I have not heard anything.
Ari,
I want to go to somebody who hasn't asked anything yet. Go ahead.
On the $20 billion supplemental, LMB, as he knows, says there's only $1 billion left in fiscal year 2001 that's on budget, or that's not Social Security. Is it accurate to say that that money can still be expended and be considered without use of Social Security surplus funding, depending on the timing of when that funding is released?
Well, I think there's been a virtual, universal, if not universal, recognition by members of the Congress and by the President that our national security will always come first. So,
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Just for clarification purposes then, this is considered a severe emergency, and therefore it's money that's being taken from the Social Security surplus.
I indicated 2 days ago that this was a severe emergency.
OMB was just giving differing advice that it depended on the time that the money is actually spent, and that it does not necessarily mean you even have to use those funds. I'm just trying to get that clarified.
I indicated this is a severe emergency. I also said that the fiscal year, of course, does not close to September 30th, so we'll know more at that time. But national security will come first.
All right,
so go ahead.
Go ahead. The word war is being bandied around here so much, but that word in and of itself carries such a constitutional connotation, etc., and creates a confrontation with Congress or whatever. Is it possible we'll see a ratcheting down of the rhetoric with the administration?
I think you're going to see consistent actions by the administration and statements of resolve and determination by the President, just as you've been seeing. So go ahead. Go ahead.
The 1991 war resolution that Congress passed put some limitations on what the President could do. Would that be satisfactory, something like that be satisfactory to this President Bush? Or would you like something that is less, is more open-ended?
You know, we're dealing with hypotheticals here. Congress today is considering a joint resolution to express its support for the President as a show of unity. And we're talking with the Congress very productively about the appropriate language to use in that. And that's where the administration is focused today.
You would see this as more of a general resolution of support and not the kind of thing that his father got from Congress in 1991.
Well, to be parliamentary, it is a joint resolution. So.
Did you understand my question? I mean, I'm saying, well, it's one thing to pass a